The VAR Show. The one place for your weekly football update.
Hola, a very warm welcome to the VAR show, the show which talks about all the various major football leagues in detail. Today we are going to continue the theme of interviews, and we have a very influential figure in the Indian footballing culture as of today and hopefully in the future also. We have the former manager of Kerala Blasters, Mr. Eelco Schattorie. For those who do not know, Kerala Blasters are an Indian professional football club based in Kochi, Kerala. The club competes in the Indian Super League, the top tier of Indian football, since its inception. The club was established on 24th of May 2014 and began their first professional season a few months later in October 2014. The club made it to the 2014 Indian Super League final in its inaugural season and finished as runners-up, losing marginally to Kolkata or ATK. As for Mr. Eelco Schattorie, in 1999, he successfully obtained the highest tier UEFA Pro license at the age of 28. Can you imagine? 28 years old, he obtained UEFA Pro license. He was the youngest coach ever to obtain the UEFA Pro license under the official guidelines of the Dutch Football Association, the KNVB. Over the course of his career, Eelco maintained over 53.4% win rate as head coach. He has a vast experience under his belt. That is obviously justifiable due to his qualifications. He has managed in the Netherlands, UAE, Muscat, Saudi Arabia, to name a few. He was also involved in the Red Bull setup during his days at Red Bull Ghana. So anyone involved with the Red Bull setup is of course a very talented person. In India, he has worked with the likes of Prayag United, East Bengal, Northeast United and recently with Kerala Blasters. So without wasting much time, I would like to thank Mr. Eelco Schattorie for coming on the show. Thank you, sir, and welcome to our show. First, I would like to ask you, how are you and what are you doing during this pandemic period?
First of all, thank you for inviting me. Nepal is one of the countries that I always would love to visit. I've been in India for a while and never visited, although it was all the time on my planning. So at least this is my first introduction to Nepalian people and to Nepalian football. I will do it online. Secondly, during the pandemic now, I said it in other shows before. I don't have brothers or sisters, so I know how to keep myself busy. I read a lot. I'm a lot on YouTube, watching documentaries, play with my son. So overall, I will always keep myself busy. I also like to do sports, by the way. So every day I do some walking and some workouts. So I have enough time to spend on myself in these days, that's for sure.
So how is, like, you have been in a lot of countries around the world. You are from Netherlands, you have been to many, like you in the Middle East, you have been into a lot of countries. So how is the football culture in India, which was your last assignment, compared to the other places you have been?
I think India still has a long way to go. They made, of course, improvement in the last 5-6 years. But in the end, if you only work on the top, that means the ISL was a great improvement on all levels. I mean, they bring in good foreigners, the infrastructure overall is okay. But below that, in the youth development, if you don't do anything there, then in the long run, it always will be difficult. Because in the end, football is developed. It's the same like any society will be developed on the people who go to school. So any kids that go to elementary school, high school, etc., if the education is not good there, the end result later will also be seen that you have less qualified people on whatever job they're going to do. So on that level, compared to other countries, even smaller countries, I will take some examples as here in the Middle East, the United Arab Emirates or Oman, where I live, or Bahrain, they still have better national teams than India, while their countries are way smaller. But it has to do because they have better youth structure set up, so that is not so difficult to figure out.
So your first, I think, exposure to Indian football was in with Praia United in Calcutta. So, like, what
Yes, correct.
brought you to India?
Um, I didn't want to come to India, to be honest, at that time, but I remember that the head coach of the national team of India at that time was somebody from Holland, Wim Koevermans. Um, he's not a small coach, has a good name in Holland, and I got an offer from an agent to come to India. So before I decided to come, I had a phone call with the head coach of the national team and asking him how's the football in India. And he basically told me, and we're talking about now 2013, I think it was somewhere there around that time. He said, no, India is on the foot of development. They are trying to develop. It's a sleeping giant. So I decided to keep a foot into the door for the future, because as a coach also you need to think of getting a job, getting work. So that's how I came to India. But to be honest, it was not my intention at first, because I don't think, they have a great football culture, background in football. So that was hesitant. But the coach, he told me that, try to get a foot in the door, and in the future, the football will develop. And that's how I came to India.
So you have worked with the Red Bull group during a Red Bull Ghana time. So they are a group that is very efficiently run. At least from the perspective of the outside world, you see them very sorted out. You know, like in different countries, they have players moving from one academy to another, targeting young coaches. Like, how was the experience working with them?
To be honest, it's one of my most beautiful, best jobs I ever had in football. And based on, I was 1 year in Africa, in Ghana. This academy was from Red Bull Salzburg. Unfortunately, this academy doesn't exist anymore. But the time that I got with those talents and the infrastructure that we have, so the academy was fantastically set up. We had all the facilities. During the training, we always get testing, like blood testing, even during training, to see how their fitness levels were, etc. So all fantastically organized. It's one of my most beautiful experiences, especially seeing the progression you make on a short time, because you get everything. The infrastructure around the team was fantastic. So it was a really beautiful, good experience. Unfortunately, that academy was it doesn't exist anymore. The academy is still there, but it's not from Red Bull Salzburg anymore. I don't know why they get out of it, but overall, even in the last, what is it now, 6-7 years, you can see the Red Bull, like you have Red Bull for what is it, Leipzig, I think, or in Germany. In the Bundesliga, you can see that they grow, and they have very serious and backup of financials, and also ideas in the developing of football, and they're doing that really well. Yes, absolutely true.
So we'll move on to our last club, that is Kerala Blasters. You did not enjoy the level of success that you would have hoped for. Like what you wanted, maybe you did not experience that. How would you describe your time at the club?
First of all, I am 100% sure that if I would have get more time, let me say it like this season was not a failure. It was maybe a failure on the position of the league, but it was better than last year. That is one. So we made improvement. I think we had a good team. But in the end, the club made some mistakes on a certain area, and that's why we had a lot of injuries this season. And for any coach, if you have in 25 years of my career, I never had so many injuries. I have a very structured plan of working, also on a physical level, how to keep players fit. So it's not like suddenly I did something else. I know exactly why we had so many injuries this season. But to give it in a perspective, we played 18 games in the ISL. 18 league games, and 17 of them I had to line up a different 11 players. And yeah, if anyone who wants to get success, you need to have consistency. That means you need to have at least 70-80% of the games almost the same lineup, because that builds connections. Last year when I was at Northeast, I had a less quality team, a smaller team, but 70 or 80% of the games we always played with the same team, and that's what eventually brings you success if you have a good structured way of working.
So you even went on to say that the Kerala Blasters team were a team in transition, and given time you could probably take them to new heights. You said something like the previous coach had just played a long ball approach. Do you think maybe you have any regrets about how it ended at Kerala Blasters? You could have done something beautiful maybe with the team.
So the playing style was from the first day, always takes time, but there are many games where we dominated. So the playing style, the way of playing, was integrated pretty well. We got even a lot of compliments from other teams, even on social media. Every time Goa is highly complimented on how many goals they score, but in the end, yeah, they didn't win the league the last 3 years. So and for us, it's the same thing. I implemented a style. We had the highest amount of goals in the history of Kerala, so the playing style was there. But to get eventually results depend completely on consistency. So there are a few things that we developed. The playing style. The second thing we developed is that we, for instance, Kerala in their history never win from Bengaluru, their rivals. We won against them. So there are on few levels. So we had the youngest team in the league. So in order to build something, yeah, that takes time. But it seems in the history of Kerala, in the 6th season, they had 9 coaches. So that shows they're a little bit impatient. And I'm the next one who has to leave, and the next one in line can have a try.
So were you happy with the quality of players available at Kerala Blasters?
I think the foreigners that we have, they were good. There are on a few positions where I say we could have had better, but in the end also, and that's one of the things, for instance, I was very cooperative with the club, because the season before they put out 7 foreigners. So that means, and there were 7 foreigners who all had still a contract. So that means it cost money, and I cooperated with the club to when you have a certain budget, you bring the next group of players. It's not like you can just pick whatever you want. So you have to take care a little bit of the budget. I think we had good players. On the Indian level, we had young players, and I think there they should have done a little bit better. But I was not involved in that, because before I signed the contract, the club already signed all Indian recruitment, and yeah, I think on the level of Indian players, if you compare it to all the other teams, yeah, there we had and the youngest, and also, yeah, I think we should have had a little bit better quality. But I never complained about this, never. But in the end, yeah, if you kicked out, if you don't get a chance to rebuild, and also on that level can contribute, yeah, that is a bit frustrating. But what can I do?
So I personally like Sandesh Jingan, your player.
Mm-hmm.
He is like a warrior on the pitch. Do you think his injury had a major effect in the team's performance?
He's a small radar in the total group, but especially for this position, that means in the defense position, Sandesh was from the first day he came injured. I had a Brazilian player called Jairo. He was injured from the first day he came. He only played 3 or 4 games, and each game he played with an injection. Then Gianni Zuiverloon from Holland, very good player, who is more for the build-up in the back. But he, after the 3rd game, got an injury. So I have three top players, defenders, who all got injured, and they all for the same position. Then we had to bring a new Indian defender who didn't do any pre-season, Raju, his name, and there were no other options. Then we had to bring in a new foreign defender, and that was Vlatko. But he also was a player who didn't do any preseason, and he didn't have a club. So you have to choose from a group of players that basically are not chosen by other clubs. So the reason for that I don't know, but it's not like you have many choices, and most of them, they are even physically not fit. So in the defense line, in the back line, I had a huge problem already from the beginning of the season. In the end, I managed. There are a few games where we only played with 2 Indian defenders, where we still did a good job. But missing Sandesh as an extra component, especially the supporters love him. He's a big, strong guy. So for long balls, for heading, he has good passion. He's one of the players that we missed, and of course, if we would have had him, it would have brought us extra options.
So, going back, you are the youngest in Netherlands to get the UEFA Pro license in 1999. I think you are around 28 years old. So, whereas in the Indian Super League, as of today, there are no Indian coach in the head coach capacity in any club. Like, do you think somewhere like the head coach capacity is largely dominated by Spanish coaches, they have 6 of them with the recent appointment in Goa? Do you think like the Indian or the AFC coaching education is far behind in respect to UFA?
First of all, what you just said, there's the 6th Spanish coach is appointed. You see that all over the world, that it has zero thing to do with Spanish, Dutch, or whatever. And I would say the Spanish football till Guardiola basically was coach of Barcelona. Till that time, so we're talking about, what is it,
2008 to 12?
90. Yeah, so till that time, the Spanish national team, not one didn't do anything in world football. And a big change of that actually has to do with the Dutch culture. That means Johan Cruyff brought the like a little bit the Ajax system to Barcelona, and that's how the football started changing. So bringing Spanish coaches it's not like Spanish coaches are top or Dutch coaches are top. It's about bringing a coach that has a certain quality. So if you bring only Spanish coaches, that means in the mindset you think like, oh, as long as we bring Spanish, then it's good. Yeah, that's nonsense. It's the same thing. You don't have to only bring Dutch, or you just take a coach that has the right quality. That is one. 2, the development of Indian coaches is not easy. Look at the development of coaching courses. There are 3 countries in the world where I say they really have a good development. That is Holland, and not because I am from Holland. It is Germany, and it is France. They have really top development. All other countries, they are also good in Europe, but less. These are 3 top countries that I know. And the reason being that when you do a course for coaching, it's like a whole year. It's not just like a 2 weeks or 3 weeks. Just quickly, we do some training, and we talk about a few parts of coaching. It's actually a whole year where you take a course, and developing coaches is experience. So it's not like something you do for 2 or 3 weeks and then. So I don't know the quality. I can't judge it. But if it's very short and just like a few weeks, you cannot just become a coach in just 2 or 3 weeks. It's the same thing as a professor. If you want to be a professor, you need to do a university study, and it's over many years, or a doctor. Football coach is not just something you just do like that. I get many emails and messages from fans or young people. Coach, I want to be a coach, please, what should I do? And they have this idea that because I like coaching, just let's get into it. And coaching is nothing more than experience, and it takes time. And it's if you want to coach on the highest level, it's not. As I said, you compare it with a doctor or with a professor. It's something very specific. So it's not something you just learn in 2 or 3 weeks time in a course.
So you have participated in both I League with East Bengal and maybe in the Indian Super League with Northeast and Kerala. So according to you, which is more competitive and which one did you like?
I think the I League before was way more competitive than it is now. The last 2 3 years, I think it went down the level of the I League. But both, yeah, I enjoyed. But in the end, the ISL is, of course, has more exposure, has better foreign players. That I'm 100% sure. The infrastructure is better. That means your training fields, the traveling, the media attention. So overall, I think that the ISL for sure at this moment is better. But in the beginning, in the beginning years, I think after the I League was very competitive, more competitive than the ISL. But that is only the first 2 3 seasons, maybe from ISL.
So what are your aims or goals for the future? Have you received any offers from clubs as of now?
No, at this moment, no offers. And I have the feeling that for the upcoming season for India that I will not be there. I think, as you said, they go for Spanish coaches, um, I, I also always the people think that I'm a difficult person and that my character because I'm animated, but in the end, yeah, that has nothing to do with the coaching itself. I think I have very good qualities to bring a team. Um, Most clubs where I work are all clubs who are trying to rebuild something, but that is one of the most difficult jobs. And if you don't get a chance and to finish it, last year with Northeast, in all their seasons, they never qualified. Last year we qualified, and in the end, they wanted to go to also another direction. This year again, they were down. So you need to be patient with things, and unfortunately, till now, no offers. But we keep looking, and there's more than football outside of India. So I'm looking for also options either in Europe, in Asia. But at the moment, it's very quiet because of the coronavirus, of course. So let's see what happens.
So for you, which club or which challenge has been the most exciting for you in your career till now?
The most challenging, the most
Which one
difficult
you
job that I
liked a
had.
lot?
Yeah, the one I liked the most, as I told you, when I was in Ghana, in Red Bull Ghana, Red Bull Salzburg, because it was you could see the progression in very short time. The talents were fantastic, the infrastructure was fantastic. So you had all the right circumstances to build. That was a really great job. The most difficult one was for me in Saudi Arabia, in Al Ittifaq. I work at this club 4 times, coach of the Olympic team and also assistant coach of another Dutch coach. And I had one, this is 3 seasons ago, I think, 3 or 4 seasons ago. I took over from a Spanish coach also at that time. And there were 9 games to go, and I had to save them from relegation. I couldn't bring any new players, any info. I had to do with what we had, and that was a really difficult job. But in the end, I kept them in the league. That was a very difficult job, and also very satisfying. That if you are in a very difficult situation where there's a lot of pressure because there's relegation there, and then still keep the players motivated and get some results, then yeah, that was one of my most difficult jobs, but I succeeded at it. But the thing is that is mostly seen as not a really an achievement. People only see when you are a champion or take a cup or something.
So, how is the infrastructure of football in India in comparison to other places you have been?
Still behind, because most teams don't have a second team, for instance, or a proper youth development. So yeah, as I said, the perception, if you have the ISL on the TV, looks fantastic, but the clubs itself, yeah, there still can be a lot of things can be done, and they're trying, they're developing, but compared to other countries, they're still behind. But they're trying to catch up. So let's hope they manage to catch up as soon as possible.
So, like, if you had to describe yourself as a coach, what type of philosophy would you associate yourself with? Like your playing style?
Yeah. First of all, I always like to dominate. That means I'm not the type of coach who believes in. You hear that many times. It's not important if we have the ball in the end. We need to score one goal more than the opponent, and we are winner. So you see many teams who defend and drop in and one counterattack, and then they say we played better than you because we won. I don't believe in that. It's the same thing as painting a painting. You have people who I just say something. What's his name? Mondrian. It's a painting where you only have a color in a straight line, and they say this is art. Yeah, it is art, but it's not very difficult in my opinion. So to be a real artist, and you can compare it, in my opinion, with, for instance, Mourinho or with Guardiola, where I see Mourinho is more defensive, and yes, he has titles, but it's not my style of football. I want to see my players develop. I want to see an artistic point to football, because that's why supporters come also to football. And you always hear, for instance, players who work with Guardiola, they all say, even if they are not champion, or even if they all develop, they learn something. You never hear that about Guardiola. It's always about the result. And yes, people say like, oh yeah, I was, and I'm not saying that Mourinho is a bad coach. Don't get me wrong. It's just not my style. My style is about dominating, being progressive. In a game, if you are 1-0 behind or 2-0 behind, you don't stick to the same system. You need to force something, and you take more risks. Some coaches never take a risk. They will always keep on saying and then expecting different results. You can see that in many games last year with Northeast, even this year, where some games where we're behind, we change things around because I take more risk, and there was always a spirit of wanting to win. So progressive, always wanting to win, domination, and the style of keeping the ball. That means ball possession based football, but without exaggerating it. It is not like I'm happy when we just have the ball. It's about being effective in the end.
So, but that is like the Dutch DNA going back all the way to Rinus Michael.
True, but the only thing people always I'm always astonished that a team that plays, for instance, I just say a number, 10 long balls, and from those 10 balls, only one was a little bit dangerous, but 9 they was completely ineffective, and nobody cares about that. But a team who plays football, and let's say they 10 times do a build-up, and one time are effective, then they say, yeah, but they keep the ball too much in their own half, or too many wide passes, or whatever. So it's both the same thing, but it's the optics. And to keep the ball is actually way more difficult than and being patient than playing just a long ball. But yeah, that's and you need to find the balance. If you play long balls and you're very effective, fantastic. I also sometimes use that in games. For instance, with the last season, with Messi Bully that I had in the team, who is a strong guy. Sometimes I play a long ball and he keeps it, and we support. So it's about using quality of the players.
So, okay, like, if I want to go into tactics a little bit, what would be your go-to formation that you like?
No, formations are. I like 4-3-3, but you need to. My first year, for instance, at Prayak United, when I came, the team was playing a 4-2-3-1. When I stepped in, you never want to change too much. But I had one player in the team called Carles Hernandez. He's a World Cup player. He played World Cup with Costa Rica. He was overweight and he was playing on the midfield. And yeah, I was not good. That was a problem. So in the beginning, I could feel if we keep this system and this guy is playing on the midfield, we will play good. But he didn't work hard. He had no good fitness. and you don't have time to build fitness in 1 or 2 weeks, and you need to get results. So I eventually changed the system to a 4-4-2 in a diamond. So that means 4 in the back, a diamond on the midfield, so 2 strikers and 1 behind. And I gave this Carlos, I put him in the striker while he's a midfielder, but I told him you have the freedom to go wherever you want. He has very good passing qualities. When we did that, we won the AFI Shield, and we got unbeaten the second part of the league. So I think it was 9 or 10 games, I don't know how many, but unbeaten. And it's not about systems, it's about qualities of players, and accordingly to that you adjust a system, you choose a system. So I played all kinds of systems. I played 5 in the back, so a 5-3-2 or 3-5-2, 4-4-2, 4-3-3. I like 4-3-3. I like it, but in the end it's about the qualities of the players that you have available.
Okay, now moving from the formation, like what do you prefer? Like if you're building a team, would you go for man marking or zonal marking, or a hybrid of both?
No, you need to, as a defender, the best defenders, and as a team, first you need to set up a structure of the total team on how you want to defend. Do you want to defend on the opponent's half, or are you a little bit waiting, or you drop back? And within that system, you need to build a few a few agreements between the player on which moment and where do we want to catch the ball, and that takes training. But overall, defending is alternating, having the ball, losing the ball, having the ball, losing the ball. It's the same defending. Sometimes you need to man mark, sometimes you need to play zonal marking, and the best defenders, they alternate between it. Not good defenders, most of the time, when they're a bit lazy or not fast, they stay in zone. And if you're not too smart but want to work hard, they only do man marking and get beating. So you need a good defender, he knows how to do both, and that is something you work on with videos with players to learn them how to alternate between both of those systems.
So do you have any coach or coaches from whom you are inspired?
Yeah, there are only 2 coaches that really, actually 3 coaches that really I like. Number 1 is Johan Cruyff. Is clearly, it's proven in the way he thinks. Even I read a lot of books on him. I still know him as a player when I was young. I remember him as a player even. The second one is Guardiola, but he's actually a student of Johan Cruyff, but he built his own system even. He made it even better. And lately, in the last seasons, Jurgen Klopp. It's a different style, but you can clearly see that his thought process is on developing players, and is a very proactive coach. He's not a typical German coach. So those 3 I really admire.
So do you have any books that you can recommend to maybe listeners, like that you are reading right now?
And no, but football books, most books are biographies, like they tell a story about the biography of a coach. In football, there is not one book that is on tactics or whatever. Everything is more on developing your own philosophy. What I do a lot is watching games and analyze the games. So all the knowledge that I have, that I consider my knowledge, is not based on books. Of course, when you read books on football coaches, you pick out things, but they are mostly more about their life, and it's more a biography. So it's not about specifically about tactics. So sorry, I don't have any specific book that I could recommend there. But any book on any coach, if you read, you take something out of it, great. But for me, most of the development is done by coaching myself and watching a lot of games, analyzing games.
So which was the last football book you read?
The last football book I am actually reading still. I read it a long time ago, but I'm rereading it because of the time we have now. It's from Johan Cruyff, and it's called You Will Only See It If You Understand It. if you translate it to English. And I will explain that because it sounds very strange or very logic, but if you watch a game, so it means you're seeing the game, does not mean you understand it. If you understand something, if you are able to connect certain patterns, if you connect events together, you're understanding what's happening, then you only see it. And this book is a really interesting book written by a Dutch politician who was inspired by Johan Cruyff, by the simplicity on the way he thinks. So he applied the football management to politics, on even ruling in politics. And it's a very, very interesting book. It's a very nice book. I will give you one small example. That is the best way to explain it. If you manage a team, if you manage a country, if you manage a company, it's not about making big changes. And the example that Cruyff gives is, let's say that you have a stick balancing on your finger. It seems to be a very difficult task, but if you practice a little bit, and the stick balancing on your finger is continuously a small adjustment of a little bit left, a little bit right. What he wanted to say with it is that managing is all the time small adjustments, not big adjustments. So if you're staying stiff and you don't move, the stick will fall. If you make big movements, also the stick will fall. So what he wanted to say is, if you manage a country, if you manage people, whatever you manage, try to have a structure in place and make small changes, not too many big changes. And that's managing, being able to make small adjustments. It's a very interesting, simple concept.
So I was reading a book about Arrigo Sacchi. What do you think of him?
Okay, fantastic. Of course, this coach is more based on defending, but if you want to go into defending the tactics and the idea and the structures of defending, Arrigo Sacchi was fantastic. I remember that Marco van Basten, Ruud Gullit, and Frank Rijkaard went to Milan, and they actually had to train. They had to train with ropes in their hand. So that means if you have the back four line, and each player has a rope that connects to the other player, and it was only to keep the distance between. Yeah, and Dutch coaches at that time, they were thinking, what is this guy doing? You're not going to train with ropes and stuff. But it actually was very functional, and you saw how well they defended. But the good thing also was that Sacchi also, for instance, looked at the total football in 1974 from Nichols on the offside trap. If you go see some videos of AC Milan at that time, they were using that offside trap. So it's a very, very many coaches were influenced by Sacchi on the defensive organization. Very good book.
So on that, I'll ask you one second last question. Do you have any words for coaches or players who are just starting out their career right now?
I think in anything you do in life, either you play as a football player, anything you want to do, you want to reach, you want to go to a higher level, you need to invest time. You need to invest as much as possible, if you can, in becoming better. Do things that other people don't do. Do extra things. It sounds as a cliche, and it sounds like it's the truth. If you want to be good at something, invest as much as possible time. In the end, you need to think of that. If you want to be special, you need to do something special. It's not that difficult to understand. But as a football player, in countries where the infrastructure of football is not that great, it makes it more difficult. So make sure you find the best possible club where you get the most exposure and you have the most chance to go higher up.
So okay, I just included this question because it just came in my mind. Okay, like which is the most difficult coach or the hardest coach you have played against? Like who was very tactical and gave you a very hard competition?
In the ISL?
In your career?
I will keep it to the ISL. I think the coach from Mumbai, I think he didn't get he was a pretty defensive coach. That means he was playing on counter attacks, but he had very smart substitutions. I played last year 2 times against Mumbai. This year, of course, 2 times. Last year, I have to think the first game we lost on 1-0 on a very lucky. Was a handsball during a corner. They got away. We won 2-0. I outplayed him. But all the games, even this year, the first game they won a little bit lucky. The first game at home, and the second game we drew. We only had 3 foreigners, but all the tactics I always applied were good. But his substitutes were always very good. He knew exactly which player to take out and where to create certain danger. That I didn't see many coaches do in ISL. If I would choose one coach that was most difficult, that was him. Yes. So till now, 4 games, I only beat him once. So it was I would choose him. And in all my career, there's not one coach really that stuck to me that had always created. Oh wait, no, I forget one. And there's also Mumbai. That was Khalil. Was it Khalil?
Yes.
In the I League, I never beat him.
H1 FC, former H1. Yes.
Yes, and he had mental.
Yes.
Khalid Gamil, but that was all based on defending and playing mental games, like players all the time falling on the ground. I never beat him, so compliments to him.
Okay, on that note, we'll ask you a final question, a very controversial question. Okay, so which player do you like? Which do you pick, Lionel Messi or Cristiano Ronaldo?
Very easy, Lionel Messi. For me, and I will explain it. Cristiano Ronaldo is extremely good in scoring goals. But the rest of the game, I don't find him a good player at all. That means outside the box, holding the ball. When he has dribble 1v1, he makes 100 scissors and loses the ball. If you go see the games, many times he loses the ball. But inside the box, scoring goals. So the scoring goal is fantastic. Is top notch. Messi has more elements to the game. He is way more creative. He has way more assists. I'm sure he can. Has a very good passing quality, and he can score goals. So, if as a total package, player, I would choose Messi every time.
So you don't have any Dutch footballers for that? Like, suppose to give competition to Messi right now?
No, I don't think at this moment there are Dutch players that come to that level. No, and that means there are talents in Holland, young talents, but anywhere in the world. It doesn't matter which country. If you want to be on the level of Lionel Messi or even Ronaldo, they have to be really good. So no, I don't see at this moment any players.
What do you think of Frenkie de Jong? Do you think how good is he?
Yeah, but it's a complete different position. He's a midfielder. Great player, very good player. But the way they use him at Barcelona is he should play on the position where Busquets normally play. And if he play in other positions, that is not his real quality. But that's also a part of learning progress. And he himself actually also shows and says, like, I don't complain. If I get time to play, I will play. But it's not playing to his strength. It's his best position is in front of the defense, the Busquets role.
So one player I personally thought could emulate Ronaldo was Memphis Depay. But he didn't perform that way at United. I thought he could become the Ronaldo.
Yeah, no, I think that's one of those players where has fantastic qualities, but I'm more old-fashioned. I don't like those players all the time on Instagram showing off their things and rapping, and that's not my thing. I don't believe in it. That's more busy with appearances than actually showing on the field. And if you look at his career, they're almost more famous from doing these things on Instagram and stuff than actually playing on the field. And in the end, you need to the best players in the world, and the majority, and there are always exceptions, but the majority are all very humble people. They're very normal people. They rather don't give interviews. They rather don't come into the spotlight. Messi, Zidane. If you take the opposite, Maradona, for instance, he was more extrovert. But the majority of top players, they're always all more humble, and I don't like the way he gets on Instagram and so I don't like these things. It's not my style.
So on that note, Mr. Eelco, thank you so much for talking to us, and we wish you all the best for your future campaigns wherever that is, and we wish you win all the possible trophies in your future club, and hope we can talk again soon. Thank you so much for coming on the show.
Thank you. All the best. Stay safe, and till the next time. Cheers.
See you. Bye.